idea that I saw the computers going to be valuable. When I was working with some of the early things, they were trying to do full color, because it was, my career started when the Incredible Hulk was happening, when they did the magazine size thing, when the Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby TV show was going, so they wanted to do kind of more upscale kind of a book. So they did it in full color. They called it Marvel Super Color, you know. And then from there, a lot of the companies were trying to find ways to get out of the old flat style of coloring. And so we tried blue lines, gray lines, what I call the double print black system, a bunch of different, all these different things, until finally I was able to find the software, and then the computers took over. And it's been that way. And now everything is done on computers, unless an artist specifically wants to do some work by hand. And then basically they have to scan it into a computer and then color correct it in Photoshop before it can go out to print.
Yeah, I've known Steve for a long time. I think we first met in, was it 79 or 80? A long time.
I don't know. I mean, you had your head shaved when I met you, so it was after that.
Oh, it was? Oh, wow. Yeah. No, I was just losing my hair.
Oh, so.
No, I had hair when I met you, Steve.
Okay.
Not anymore. But so I got Steve. We since we've known each other over the years, I ran into Steve at was it SunCon? The San Jose convention.
San Jose. That was the SuperCon.
Yeah, SuperCon. Yeah, now it's called something else.
It's called the Big Wow.
The Big Wow. Yeah, it's a nice convention in San Jose.
San Jose.
San Jose. Sent you to the wrong place. But anyway.
Wrong stadium.
Yeah, really. That's. Yeah. Anyway, so I kind of twisted his arm to colour this book, and actually I'm really happy with his colouring. You can actually come down and check it out. But I think he pluses it enormously, because he doesn't just colour a book. He gets into the actual acting and the mood, the lighting and everything, which is a lot of fun.
Well, I've always thought that the color should be part of the real storytelling. And in fact, I call color the silent soundtrack, because it's always kind of moving underneath the thing, setting the tone, setting the feeling of the piece. You know, and I, like the way we try to set up is like, we'd set up certain color themes that would kind of interweave with, depending upon how it all worked.
You've colored both using computers and by hand, right? Which method do you prefer, and does it feel different or take away from the feeling that you get as an artist when you're coloring?
They're pretty different. For a long time, I was much more comfortable coloring with traditional media, you know, airbrush and gouache and felt pens and colored pencil. But now I've been doing computer coloring so long that I've just recently started to try some experiments back with real media, and it's kind of hard to go back. I'm so used to what the computer can do, and there are certain effects and things that you can get, and just your approach to light and color, that the computer gives you a great range. But the only problem is you lose a little bit of that textural feel, and that's what a lot of people are trying to go back and put textures into it, but it's just to sort of emulate what was lost in the translation.
Yeah, and what I always liked his color sense, but like I just said, he adds to the story. In fact, there's many a point, because I've drawn this book over a period of like 40 years. It's like crazy. So what I've been doing since I was a kid, now I'm nearly an old man, or I am an old man. And here we're finally doing it, and he's finding that some pages, like there might be a page that I drew 25 years ago next to a page that was drawn 10 years ago. And yet, because I was working on movies, see, I worked on movies like Predator and La Bamba, and Mad Max. I did the Mad Max movies and all that stuff. Like what I call comic book movies, and the Rundown. I acted in the Rundown with The Rock. And anyway, so this was the thing I did in between movies, because it's how my career got started, by samples from this book. And so the problem that I gave him, after we messed up on the scans on our end, was continuity problems. He'd go like, wait a minute, this belt doesn't look the same.
Well, sometimes not just a belt, but an entire costume would completely change, or the time of day would be different, because he hadn't really gone through and checked those things out. So it was kind of a little bit of frustrating and a little bit of an editorial process, but it took him a few issues, but he got a lot more of it under control now.
Oh yeah, and actually there was one thing he said, Paul, you've done a night scene. This is the day. I went, oh shit, can you fix it? He goes, well, I shouldn't have to fix it, but I can fix it.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. So I mean, it's just one of those things that, you know, as a colorist, you're the last person to really see it. And I was able to check through, and I just thought, when you're trying to make sense of it all, and make, especially something as, you know, that's been done over a lot of years, you have to really focus on it and try to. So I would be nitpicking every little thing that he might, because he's so familiar with it over the years that he wouldn't even really, so kind of just wouldn't see it.
No, and it's weird because I work in film, storyboarding movies, and when you're doing that, you're watching where the camera is and continuity, and yet in my own comic book, I had fucked that up.
Yes.
So he would say, wait a minute, I'm not the editor. I said, no, tell me, I'll fix it.
Right.
And then I fix it, or sometimes I'd fix it and give it to Terry to scan, and you never saw the scan. I go, oh, well, this was Terry. Terry Wilson, he works on the book as well. It was a lot of, initially, let me just tell you something, that one of the unsung things that people who are doing self-publishing don't really realize is that there's an awful lot of production and coordination that goes on, that if you've got a good editor and an editorial policy and a stream of keeping the things going, you kind of work those things out. But when you're just starting up to do your own kind of self-publishing, it's really hard. I published my Armature comic book, and I have a small production crew, but just running into all the details, and then you're dealing with the distributors and the printers and all those things. It's actually an awful lot of work, and it has to have some kind of one person who kind of understands the process and can kind of make sure that the whole thing comes together. And Paul hadn't really had that experience. No. I mean, I kind of had it in film, but in film you work with a whole bunch of other people who will go, wait a minute, and stop you. And then I was like going, oh my God, I thought I was good at this shit. Right. No, I wasn't. But we fixed it.
You know, and it's really, there's a marked improvement, I think, in the flow of pages, and keep looking for typos and continuity things from his first issue to the one we're working on now.
Yeah, I finally got a good editor, and I went, wait a minute, let's just do this properly. Because one thing is, what I am happy with is that with the drawing, I know how to draw an exciting story. But boy, did I slip up on a few crucial things, like basic stuff. It's terrible. But you know, people that actually read it, they've enjoyed it. As I like to call it, it's good reading when you're in the bathroom. But part of this character here, the Rock Warrior, when I was working on the rundown, I had a couple of pages up on the, well actually this guy, Professor Ong, the Western guy here. Well, I'll tell you a story. I was working on this film, The Rundown. Have you seen that at all?
Oh, no, I actually haven't.
All right. It's with The Rock. But it's when I worked on that movie, it's really a comic book movie. I think you'll like it if you see it. And to me, it felt like I was drawing my character, which was perfect. And since I have a background in grappling, martial arts, boxing and everything, my sensei, Judo Jean LaBelle, who worked with Bruce Lee, and I mean he's quite famous as a stuntman and as a martial artist, and he had wrestled The Rock's father and grandfather, and anyway, so when I got to meet The Rock on the set, we were talking about grappling and stuff, and he says, well, do you want to do anything? I said, what are you, crazy? You're like 235 pounds. At that time I weighed 160. I'm going, this is crazy. He said, no, come on. He said, I'll take a few falls for you. I said, okay, I'll do Taitoshi, you know? And I thought, yeah, that'd be good, we'll do that. And instead, it gave me such an opening. I got him in a thing called Tataguruma, where I go, do you know judo at all?
I've studied Aikido, but...
All right. Well, I got right under, it's like a fireman's carry. But I grabbed his right wrist, like this, put a lock down, pulled him down. Now, he was going with it, right? I mean, he was taking the fall. I got him like that, I came between his legs and I did a snap right on his nuts with that. So he jumped. So I got him like this, and bang, straight down. I'm like, oh shit. And he got up and he was really not happy. So he chased me around the set, around the thing about 3 times, and he finally got me. You know, I'm running and I'm terrified. Everybody else is laughing their asses off, and I'm thinking, no, I'm dead. I'm really dead, because he's really like, he's like a bull. So he finally grabs me by the throat, does his signature thing. Luckily we had these pads which were like, like this thick off the ground. He gets me on there by the throat. He's got me. I'm completely like paralyzed. I'm thinking, what can I do? Nothing. And he just grabs me and throws me down and goes, bang! And I just, He goes, how do you like that, Paulie? And I went, good. He said, don't do that again. I won't.
I guess not.
No, but he was cool about it. Anyway, so he came over to see me the next day, and I had drawn a sequence in the movie where he gets caught upside down with the other actor. They just, caught in a wire trap. You're swinging back and forth between trees, and they have to get out there. And I thought, to make the scene more fun, because they're just hanging there, I drew these wild baboons. Now this story takes place in South America. There's no baboons in South America. But I put them in there anyway. And then just for fun, I made them very horny.
I'm sorry, what was your role in the movie? Were you a storyboard artist? Or?
I was a storyboard artist, but I also acted in the film too. I'm in the first 10 minutes. I'm the plot point in the film. I'm the reason why he has to go on the whole adventure. So they couldn't cut me out if they wanted to. Anyway, so I drew this scene, and I thought I'd have fun with it because it was a dead scene. It's just two guys trying to swing back and forth and get out of this rope thing, and it was kind of boring. So I drew these monkeys on either side, and then to make it more fun, I had them that they were in heat. So they're swinging back and forth, and the monkey's after them. Suddenly the monkey jumps up on the rock. He's upside down, can't do anything, and the monkey's like humping his face. Which, yeah, sometimes I draw the stuff just for fun. I just give it to the director. So he'd say, I'll get the fuck out of here. But he reads it, he goes, you know what? That's really good. We're going to do it. I said, no, come on, it's a joke, man. He says, no, he said, the good news is we're going to do it. The bad news is you're going to tell The Rock that we're going to do it. Now, I just went through all this other BS with him, and I'm going, he's going to kill me. I said, no, I never did tell him. I went back to the trailer and drew. Then at like 2 in the afternoon, the door slams right open, and there's two other storyboard artists sitting there with me, and I see him, I go, oh shit. And he goes, did you draw that? You want me to do? I was like, hey man, it's just a fucking joke, come on, what's the matter? You know, he goes, and then he saw on the wall the East Beats West drawing that I did with Neil Adams. Where is it? Oh no, it's on another book. Anyway, and he says, hey, what's that? I said, that's my comic book character. He just stopped. He was only ever messing with me anyway, but I was like, shit. And he says, I could play that character. I said, yes, you could. And then it was fine. But I mean, The Rock is, you know, he's a pretty cool guy. He likes, he's into Elvis. Likes to do Elvis impressions. But I mean, that was his most successful films out of the films that he's done. The Rundown.
Well, I guess as a storyboard artist, it sounds like your martial arts experience helped you, or what gives you like ideas for your storyboards in terms of?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, see, in this book, I mean, you know, I'm a big comic book fan as well. You know, I mean, that's why any of us become cartoonists to begin with. But because of the background of my family and everything, I like to put the elements of that in my books, and it's all throughout. But it's not focused on it. But when you see a technique done, it's pretty much correct. You know, especially in this one. There's a wild brawl in this one. It's pretty cool. But I like to draw that stuff out from a. Well, it's like anything. If you, it's like when I worked on the film Predator with Arnold. You know, I met him a long time ago as well. But I knew that Arnold did archery. I knew that Arnold was into Edgar Rice Burroughs. You know, because I met him in '72 and '74 and everything. And I was able to put that stuff into Predator because they didn't have a third act in the script. They had it, but then they were going to fire the director. And I'll tell you a story on that. Did you see Predator at all?
I believe so.
Anyway, well, there's a scene in there where Arnold's character goes over a couple of waterfalls, and they actually said to the stuntman, okay, you're going to go over the waterfalls. He goes, no, I'm not doing that. I've got a couple of films I'm doing. I'll break my legs. And the producer and director said, well, if you don't do it, then you're fired. He said, fine, fire me. Then Arnold's friend, a friend of Arnold, big bodybuilder guy, goes, yes, I'll do it. So he does it, goes over the waterfall, breaks both legs.
Oh.
Now the stuntman that was Arnold's double, you can see him in a couple of scenes in it. It was Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh.
And if you put him at it like this, you can adjust with lenses. You know, Arnold, if you pull Arnold back and Van Damme forward, like 5 feet, you get him on a 35 lens, he stands on it and same build at the same time. So he was a perfect double, even though he's only about 5'6" and Arnold was 6'2". But symmetrically, it was a perfect double. But he wouldn't do it. And I've seen Van Damme a couple of times since. I said, yeah, you've gone through some bad times, man. He said, but aren't you glad you didn't do this? He says, yes, fuck them, I'm not doing it. So, yeah.
Well, that sounds great. It sounds like if you draw something on a storyboard, they would have to do it, and you sort of get to see how that looks in real life.
Well, actually, you know, sometimes in my storyboards, because if you go to my website, paulpower.com, I actually put notes on the sides. This is dangerous. Use a dummy. Because it's a long lens shot, they're not going to know. You know, all you have to do is put a couple of pins in a mannequin. Just dress it up. Just weigh it a bit different, and then gravity will play, and you'll believe it's a real person. You don't need to put a real person through that. It's only a movie. No need to kill anybody. It just happened with Sylvester Stallone on the Expendables.
Well, what happened?
A stuntman died. I don't know what the thing was, but a stuntman got killed, and another one got hurt pretty bad. That's a shame. And you never know, man. That's why they're stuntmen. They get paid for that, and they calculate that risk. I mean, if you go see The Rundown, there's some stunts in there that Tunaway Reed, who is The Rock's cousin, that is his body double. He's a judo man himself. And he did this stunt. We saw it in rehearsal. And I thought, he's dead. I really did. I thought, he's dead. Oh, shit. You know? He does this stunt where it's like The Rock. He swings from a branch to another branch, hits it, and he falls down this, like, 3 stories of, well, not 3, but 2 stories of tree branches, which is a big fall, and then bam, lands. And I thought, even in rehearsal, I said, he's dead. This is awful. He gets up, hey, I'm fine. He won an award for that. I couldn't believe it. I said, Tunaway, how the hell did you do that? He said, I just knew I could do it. I went, it's a miracle. Anybody else would have just died. Anybody else wouldn't have done that stunt.
Jackie Chan.
Oh, yeah, well, the guy who was our stunt coordinator really... oh man, I'm forgetting his name, this is terrible. But, I mean, he's a Hong Kong guy. Fantastic. I mean, this is the guy I'd hire for any sort of superhero movie because he really has it down, the whole physicality. He was wonderful to work with, you know. And that was a great thing about working on the Rundown was everybody worked together real well, and it was just like a big jigsaw puzzle that worked. And the thing I really like about the movie as well is there's a lot of humour to it, and basically to bring it back to this, basically that's what my comic book's about, the same sort of thing. So it was good to work on that movie for many reasons. I was going through a divorce as well, so that film saved me. You know, kept my head together. But they were all wonderful guys to work with. And then one day they asked me when I did that throw of The Rock, you know, I picked up one of the guns and I went, oh, look at this. I don't know, I must have held it right or something. And Peter Berg goes, hey, Power Pack, this is what he calls it. Can you act? I said, of course I can fucking act. You know, I kept on, he said, well, come on. And then it dawned on me, he wants me to play this part. I'm going, but this is ridiculous. Because the part I'd been playing was meant for a 7-foot black man. And I am so much not a 7-foot black man. You know, I am 5'1". That's it. But it played pretty good. So it was a lot of fun.
I'll have to go on my Netflix and check that movie out.
Did I send it to you? I thought I did.
You might have, but
it's lost in the ether.
It's lost in. There's been a lot of shuffling stuff.
Yeah, I bet. Anyway, so the thing is, what we were doing with this book was just. Originally, when I created these characters back in '72, I had, you know, it was a sci-fi western, and later on in '87, I submitted it to a bunch of people. I actually had a book of this printed in 1990, but I made the mistake of submitting it to Scott Rosenberg at Malibu Comics, and later on he gets to do a movie with DreamWorks, and it's called Cowboys and Aliens. But I actually took him to court and everything, so a lot of the good stuff they couldn't do. So all the good stuff is in here, and that movie tanks, so I was delighted. Oh yeah, died in the arms. It was horrible. Didn't work as a Western, and didn't work as a piece of science fiction. I sat back there and said, yeah, I didn't get that money, but they're not going to get it either. So I was like, I was pretty happy about it. So the book itself, what I'm trying to do with this book is, it's my sci-fi Western, but also I have backup stories that are old Australian strips that were pretty radical. So we're presenting them in colour. But the book is it's a 68-page comic book. So I wanted to, like they used to in the 60s and that, the 80-page comic books from DC. Good I don't know if you've seen those big, thick books.
Well, it used to be the giant annuals, and every summer like Marvel would come out. They had DC would do the 80-page ones, and Marvel would do 72 pages.
Yeah. They were great fun. I loved it.
Yeah.
So I thought, if I'm going to make a comic book, I'm probably not going to make any money on it whatsoever. But I'm going to do it, and just make it fun.
And you know, that's one of the things about this comic book business, that you've got, often that we have these projects that got us into it, we kind of put off because you got to make money and you're doing things for other stuff. Like, it's much like me with my character Armature. I got a couple of issues out and then ran into the realities of publishing and getting it out there, and realizing that I really couldn't draw very well because you spend so much time coloring other people's work and you're not working on your own art skills, you're not really that good at it. But over the last 8 years, I've been doing my Armature as a weekly comic strip, so I have 50 to almost 400 strips I've drawn and written and honed it, and in the meantime I'm working on finishing up. So eventually, much like Paul, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to help him with this project, is just because I know how it is when you have a dream project that you've been working on and working on and working on, and it never gets out there. And I think it's important that creators do get the chance to get their own stuff out there. You know, it's like even if you have to, pay the bills by, say, coloring everybody else. Now, in my case, I happen to be coloring some amazing stuff that was very good for my career, and it's actually will helpfully springboard me into my next career, which is kind of teaching people about this stuff and doing some YouTube videos and kind of training things. But also, I still want to finish my own story of my first Armature thing and then see where it goes. And I also have now enough strips that I can do a collection of it. But it's kind of like one of those things. So we're all of us are kind of in the same boat.
We're still fans.
Yeah, basically, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean it's a vanity project, but see, we're kind of kindred spirits. I drive him crazy, and I drive him crazy, and he in turn drives us both crazy.
Well, it all works.
But yeah, but eventually we get it done. But there's been times when we've been on the phone, and it's like, I'm not doing this book.
Well, there were times when I was so frustrated that I just couldn't. It was just like it was tough, but
yeah, it was maddening.
Yes, it was. But I just want to give a little sidebar here. Is that on the way down here, I drove down from Northern California. I live about 100 miles north of San Francisco, and I actually drove down this time because in Los Banos, which is in the Central Valley, and down I-5, I spent about 6 months. I went to school there, and my whole comic book career actually began there. I was in the 3rd grade, and I was there, and we'd been living in LA, and things weren't working out, so my mom sent me to live with my aunt and uncle. And part of it, she felt guilty about not being with me, so she was an artist, but she had a set of Prismacolor, artist quality colored pencils, 128 pencils with the metallics. And that's when all my friends had like 8 crayons, maybe 16. If they're lucky, they had a 32 pack of crayons. So, and also at the same time, I discovered color theory off of the bottom of a Play-Doh package. And if you ever want to learn about how to mix colors or teach kids about color, get the original Play-Doh, because it's basically the printing ink, cyan, magenta, yellow, and then you have white, so you can make all these different tints. So I learned that on my own because I was making my own little action figures for certain characters. At the same time I'm there in the 3rd grade, this is 1963, there happens to be this amazing kind of run of comic books which showed up on the racks. Spider-Man #1, X-Men #1, Avengers #1, the first Iron Man, and I was buying them all and getting and Fantastic Four at that time was up to #13. But I got, so it's like all of those factors came together at a time when I was impressionable. It was magic, like I learned all that stuff. So I went back to take a look at that town on the way down here, and it was very interesting. The town has changed. It sucks. But the school where I went and one little street where I made a decision, because this was the kind of thing this was what happened. I'll tell you this. I decided, okay, in our little hometown, to get home on the bus, they would take us out all through all the ranches, all the way out. We lived close to town, but it took us an hour and a half on the bus to get home. I'm a third grader. I decided, you know what I'm going to do? If I just walked home and stopped off the Rexall drugstore and bought some comics, and I hid out behind the trees, I could wait until the kids came, and I'd join them and go home. So I decided that, and I felt like, as a third grader, that's kind of a bold move. 8 years old, so I decided, and I got away with it for about a week. And then my aunt caught me, but then she says, you know what, Steve, if you're responsible enough to do this, go ahead. You can do it every day. And so that gave me a little bit of juice, and I still have drawings that I've done, because I was making all my little comics there, but my entire career was based on the 6 months I spent in that little town in Central Valley.
Wow.
You know.
So you went,
coming back, I went there, I actually took some video of it, and because part of the thing I'm working on is trying to do some kind of apps or videos or YouTube videos about kind of my experience in comics. And I'm also working on a thing I'm calling Under the Line Art, which is where the color is always under the line art, and there's always these inside stories about all these big projects I've worked on. So hopefully I'm going to start posting some of those on YouTube in the next year or so.
Yeah, you showed me some. It's quite nice to see just his colour without the black line and go, wow, a lot of nice stuff there. And the nice thing about his colouring is that he will make up his mind depending on the artist and the story, which way he's going to go. I'm sure you felt that way when doing this, you know.
Well, every job is different. You know, you have to figure out what the artist wants, and that's another thing. Before I was in the business, most times the colorist had no contact with the artist whatsoever, or very little. They would contact the editor, and they would never really talk. But I made it a point. I found it's much more important to talk to the artist, find out what they want. Like I found out from Paul, he doesn't like knockouts. He likes continuity. He likes it to be realistic color throughout. So okay, you know, you use knockouts for like emphasis and excitement.
Explain what a knockout is.
A knockout is where you take one particular color scheme, like it's instead of being realistic colors, they say everything's in oranges or reds. I call it, it's for emotional impact. It's impressionistic color as opposed to comic realism, which is what Paul prefers.
Yeah, I still like it kind of simple, but I mean he's.
And then also, I used to tell people that I would light my comics, or color my comics as if I were lighting for a film. Trying to put naturalistic things, and that's another thing I noticed. Most comic book colorists, I don't think really study real light in nature, and that was always been something. And that's this talking about the YouTube stuff. That's mostly what I want to concentrate on, not comic book color, but how light works in nature, and then how to translate that into color.
See, I like to, you know, I mentored under Alex Toth, you know, the guy who did Space Ghost and Johnny Quest and Space Angel. I worked with him back in '73 in Australia, and you know, he mentored me over the years. And the cool thing, I try and keep my stuff open, but apparently I do too much detail at times. But I leave it, I think, I leave some stuff open enough so that he can really play with it. Like this page is a page that Alex did the layouts to. I mean, come down and have a look at it, but I mean, and then I thought when I drew this, you know, finishing up Alex's characters, I went, oh man, I don't want any knockouts in here, and he knew that. And he coloured it in such a way that you got the group feel. It really feels good.
Well, you know, and one other thing, I'm going back to how I got to be the colorist that I am. When I was 4 years old, I went to a private kindergarten in Louisiana. Then I moved out to California, but I was too young to go to kindergarten or first grade. So I had to repeat kindergarten.
Wow.
Which is kind of a drag, but one of the things that they used to have us do, that I always used to love, they'd give you a black crayon, and then you just scribble round, and then join the end up. And then what you do is you take all your other crayons and start filling in the colors. So you make these mosaics, and you look about color relationships and how colors worked with one another. And so you learn to just put down a few colors and then see what would work there, what would blend and stuff. So a lot of times, like on a page like that, I will do that same thing. It's like that you just spot a few colors, and then you see, what does this need? How do you make the balance? It's kind of, so I didn't realize it, but all those early experiences helped lead me, again, to my career.
Well, he's like Debussy, you know, if you listen to the music of Debussy, he always felt like when he did his music, he did it for color. And actually, if you listen to Debussy at all, you can go, oh yeah, you can feel it. Trippy.
That's true.
Trippy stuff.
There's a lot of parallels between any of those kind of art forms, you know, like music and color and stuff. They don't match up exactly, but they overlap. And that's another thing I realized, that in color, there's one universe of light, which is all, but there's at least 4 different worlds of color. You have RGB, that is the way your eyes see. There is RGB on a computer screen. There is CMYK, which is your printing colors, and then there's the red, yellow, and blue pigment colors, and each one of those worlds is similar, but they're all a little bit different. Like say, for instance, say you do a painting, you mix your paints, but then you want to go to reproduction. Okay? So you have to scan it into the computer, so it's gone out of original light into this computer, you adjust it on the computer screen in RGB. To get any kind of printout, you have to come out to CMYK, and then that CMYK has to be judged under this one universe of light to make sure that it's right. So and each one of those little things have got slightly different rules that apply. So that's why a lot of times people get really confused with color, because it's these multiple worlds, but they're so closely related that people just think color, and they only think of one.
Yeah.
It sounds like colors communicate like the mood and the essence of the scene. So I guess I have a question. The artist draws, but the colorist colors. Do the artists do their own coloring sometimes?
Yes.
Because it sounds like coloring is such an important aspect. He would want to have control of the specific.
Many artists do. They like to have, but also just due to the production realities of comics and stuff, there's not often enough time. So artists, and also some artists. I worked with a lot of colorblind artists, and artists who really are really good with black and white draftsmanship, but with color they're just not that good.
Yeah, Tin Sale is one, and in Chaikin, I know they're colorblind.
Chaikin is colorblind.
Yeah.
He was one of my earliest guys that I worked with.
Yeah, but he oh, you going to say something?
Oh, no, I'll leave you for now.
No, but he at least Chaikin did study color theory to try and fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
And actually, some of the paintings he did I thought were pretty good. I said, that's pretty damn good for a guy who's colorblind.
He just did it by the numbers, kind of, so he knew what would work.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
pretty phenomenal. But see, I got him because I knew he could plus my work, and also I needed him to pull it together, because I've been doing this over periods of time, which is most unfair, but I'm a most unfair person. But anyway, no, and you know, doing this is costly, you know, but I'm happy to do it, you know, because I'm only ever going to do it once. And if I sell a few and make some money, that'd be wonderful. But I don't think so. I don't think I'm gonna. But the nice thing is, I wanted to put out a comic book that I would be proud of, or even if I were to give it away to go, hey, look at this. But what makes me extremely happy, I mean, Terry's been a big part of this, even though we've done some boneheaded things. He's been great. Tom Luther's been great. But the thing that really makes me happy is doing all this work and then having my friend here colour it. Really makes it worthwhile. Otherwise, I don't want to do the book.
Well, and also the color. Like I often said that you know, color can make or break a book. I mean, but I mean, color can't save bad art, but it can make decent art look better, and it can make great art look fantastic. You know, and so it's one of those things where the color has been sort of an unsung player in the whole process for a long time.
Well, I think I'm a pretty decent drawer.
Yeah.
But, you know, and my main thing is telling stories, and there's a lot of other people that work with me on this, like Dave Stevens, and Steve Lealoa, Mike Royer.
Right.
I mean, a whole bunch of people. It's been a lot of fun journey. But for me, having Steve color this stuff, I go, yeah, this is good. I don't, you know.
And then also the thing is about the color is that it's the last person in line. So it's like this is the last line of defense, pretty much before it goes to press. I mean, there's a few little things fixed up. Excuse me, sir. Now you had your hand up. You had a question a long time ago.
I know. It's just I have a two-part question. First part's like, do you give him the completed work, or are you giving like the scene for him to color? And if he colors something and bring it back to you and say, you know what, this is not what I want, this is not what I desire. What's the relation of that?
Well, occasionally I'll say to, like he told you, I don't like knockouts, you know, and he will discuss with me, Paul, what about this? And then I try to leave him alone. Occasionally I'll go, hey, could you change that? But I try not to, because I like what he's doing.
And
also, I don't want to piss him off too much.
Didn't like what you're doing and say, hey, this is not what I want
well,
you to be doing.
if he said, no, this isn't working, basically that's my job is to say, okay. You know, unless if I feel really strongly about it, then I'll argue my points.
Oh, yeah.
But like with Walter Simonson, there were some times on recoloring this whole Thor run, there's 1,000 pages, and I worked with him very closely on it. And
they scanned it from
his original art.
So he never sold any of that stuff.
So it's very clean. It's if you get a chance to see the Thor omnibus, it's this thick. Even if you don't buy it, just take a look at it from somebody that has a store that has it. It's some of the nicest work I've done in 15 years. But there are times when I do something I was really proud of. I think, and Walter would go, Steve, it isn't working. It just isn't working. And I'd try, you know, I'd argue my case, but, you know, ultimately, the artist/writer is the one who has the final say, and it's my job to make them happy and to try to make them look good. So I even though sometimes if I don't particularly agree, I will change it because it's not my project.
Yeah.
You know, on that level.
But for the most part, I don't think I've asked you to change it.
No, very few things. Just a couple of knockouts, and that was before I really realized that he just really doesn't like them. So since that point, I just don't do them. I mean, only in the rarest instances, maybe a little figure.
Yeah, and when you have done it, and I go, I don't say anything because it works.
Right.
You know, I'm happy. You know, actually, when I see stuff, I get happy. It's like it feels to me like it's not my comic book anymore. You know, and it's like acting. You know, when you act with somebody, you know, because I've worked with some pretty good actors, even as a storyboard artist, if I run lines with them or whatever. The thing, this is like acting. You know, you gotta let them do their stuff too. The main thing, if you hire an artist and you want the best out of them, you gotta trust them.
That's what I've always appreciated about the people I've worked with. It's been a real collaborative effort. I mean, I really do feel like I've had input. My sense has been listened to, and then I listen to them. And since 90% of the time they don't get that kind of feedback from the colorist, they're delighted to have somebody ask what they actually think.
Yeah. No, I've really enjoyed working with Steve, even though I drive him crazy.
That's getting easier.
Yeah, but I'm getting happy with it. See, that's the main thing.
Yeah,
I'm going to spend this money. I'm going to go. You know what? I might not make a brass razoo, but I'm proud of that. You like that? You know?
So that actually makes a lot of sense. It seems like the colorist has a certain skill set that the artist isn't, because I guess it's hard to develop perfection in everything.
Oh, sure.
And the colorist helps the drawer's vision come to life.
Yes,
oh yeah,
exactly.
I guess the second part of my question is, you definitely sound like you have a great grasp of not just the experience, but have a great grasp of the technique of coloring. My question is though, do you have a certain goal when you're coloring? It sounds like you have a great technical grasp of coloring, but is there a certain emotion, like when you're coloring a comic book, do you try to think of, are you trying to create a mood, create a scene?
Absolutely. That's what I was
yeah.
talking about, that silent soundtrack thing. It's like because what you have is, what I've discovered in my study of light and color is that you have an emotional response to color scheme that you see.
And how did you study your coloring? Coloring?
Mostly, I've studied a lot. I've studied comics. I dissected that as a kid. I would look at paintings and stuff.
You never went to art school?
I didn't go to art school, but my primary thing was that I happened to live on the west coast of California, so I've studied the light in nature more than anything. I can look at scenes and see what's going on light-wise, because light is the most amazing thing in the universe. It's always surprising.
Just quickly, so you're the artist, you're the colorist. I'd like to hear from this gentleman right here.
Oh yeah, Terry, sorry.
What's his position and how he's contribute to your project?
Go on, go on, Terry.
Mainly, I get the original artwork from Paul, and he gives me directions, and I will scan the artwork and sometimes clean up a little bit. And every now and then I'll redo the lettering digitally, but he does by hand. So
Scan it to the computer?
Yeah. And then I'll make it, the files, send them off to Steve or someone else. Mainly I just scan and do a little bit of digital cleanup and some lettering.
And he's done a little bit of colouring on some stuff as well. Terry, I met Terry at CAPS, which is the Comic Artists Professional Society, which is having a banquet tonight for Al Jaffe. Yeah, he's going to that. But Terry, I had shown a short film that I directed with John Romita Jr. And John Romita Jr. is in it. Anyway, he asked a bunch of questions, and we got to talking, and then somehow it came up that he wanted to work with me or something. I forget what it was, but then I got him to do lettering, and then he did the scanning.
And we live very close also, we live very close to each other.
Yeah,
that helps too. And see, because like I said, in any kind of this stuff, there's a lot of production stuff. Like, that's one thing that I find I end up doing a lot of things that I normally wouldn't do, because an editor should take care of it, making sure the scan is clean and all the little specks and spots, and because sometimes the scans are really dirty when they show up. Because if you don't, just to let you know, if you ever draw or pencil or ink something, erase your pages really well before you scan it, because a lot of those pencil marks will bleed in and it just leaves a lot of crap behind.
Yeah, some of this stuff, I work with Mike Doherty on the pencils. I do a layout, and he pencils so hard. It's like with a chisel,
right?
And so hard to get the stuff out.
And
he would go, there's too much graphite in this. I'm going, oh shit. Yeah, go on.
I guess I'm curious. It sounds like obviously you guys have a very passionate idea about what you're doing. I was wondering if the passion bleeds outside of your direct work. Like, for example, if you do coloring and lighting, I was wondering, your intense focus on lighting and moods. I was wondering, do you decorate your house a certain way, or you do like lighting a certain way?
I do that, and I also do a lot of things like if I wasn't down here this year, I'd be home putting together our Halloween displays. I do some amazing light and spooky things, and Christmas times I do all sorts of things for my community. I do a variety of other outlets with that same kind of stuff.
He's a guitarist.
So you create different ambient, different lighting ambience.
Right.
That's amazing.
Well, quite often we'll be talking, and we talk a little bit about the comic, then we talk about music, and then he'd tell me, because I'm fascinated with his property that he's got up there, he would tell me, oh man, some guy gave up their house and he has this wooding that's amazing. I got this stair, I had to drag it.
Right.
Amazing stuff from what was it, from some house?
Oh, from one of the Sea Ranch homes. I've got 1,000 board feet of cedar wood that I'm going to be putting into this next unit. I'm always, I try to.
But he's clever. He's a clever guy.
I find a way. It's all a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and it all kind of blends into the one.
Yeah, no. And the other thing I like to talk to him about, I go, well, okay, what are you cooking? You tell him that.
Oh.
I'm going, I've got to come up there and get some of that food.
Yeah, I just
make me hungry.
My son gave me a commercial stove, so I've been learning how to cook Thai food and some really good.
And you color it.
Yeah, and I make sure I have good color schemes on my food.
Okay.
I don't know. You could go on Chopped, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'd get chopped fast, but it'd be fun.
But it looked good.
Well, I think we're probably out of time.
We're done.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for attending.
Oh, can you take a picture of us up here before we go? I have a
if you
camera.
wouldn't mind.
Sure.
And then actually, if you want to get any of his, he's got.
Or I'll
yeah.
show you what I've got down at my
Yeah.
booth. I'm at 1212 on Artist Alley.
And where are we at, Terry? 12:14 or something?
12:20 or 12?
No, 12:15. We're right across the way. Here we are. Andy Terry. The Three Stooges.
Kind of
All right.
Yeah, I have the flash on.
You want the flash off or on?
Oh.
Okay. Cool.
Seems really, really
That's
cool.
good.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Adam, what's your name?